What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content we've been putting out on Village. We did a podcast wrap-up of the Village Showcase, in addition to a bunch of videos that followed breaking down the screenshots, the trailer, the gameplay, all of the creamy goodness we got for info in the last couple of weeks. We're not done. We got plenty of stuff coming down in the pipeline that we got ready to go, and the last video we did was a joke troll video on the map breakdown that we did in the Let's Talk live stream. Thanks for anyone that came out to the live stream we did today, just talking about, future plans and whatnot and what we plan on doing. Check that out. But yeah, so we have a real map breakdown that's coming. Don't worry, it is coming. And plenty more videos, so stay tuned for that. And this is the first podcast of February as far as Let's Talk Resident Evil. So we have a couple more stuff that we're going to be covering on the show this next month. Potentially a Resident Evil Apocalypse review and commentary, because we promised that in January. We didn't really fulfill on the promise, only because of, Resident Evil Village. Just, we needed to kind of cover it the last bulk of the month. So it's one of those things that ended up happening. But again, it's going to be a big push between now and May. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff, a lot of content. The Legacy series is still going to return, and we got a lot of stuff to play up until Resident Evil Village for our 24-hour live stream. So we're going to be talking about that a lot, just like Resident Evil 3. We're going to roll out a bunch of stuff. We also rolled out official Let's Talk Resident Evil merch that is listed on our channel and down below in this video or podcast. On Spring. It's no longer Teespring, it's now Spring. But yes, they do a bunch more than just t-shirts. But of course, we have short sleeves, female t-shirts, long sleeves, and hoodies right now of the basic logo. So shout out to Steve Robinson for hooking us up and helping us with the logo. He did all the logo and channel designs, and it looks fucking awesome. So thank you, man. Big shout out to him. And shout out to you guys for just being awesome and being very supportive in this time. We really appreciate it. And this is a big show that we're about to get into, because it is covering not Village for once, but Resident Evil 4 Remake. Because amongst the Village information, we got this bit of information of Resident Evil 4 Remake getting delayed, production being, overhauled, starting over, that kind of thing. We talk about all of that here in this video. Me and John are, obviously passionate about the topics of remakes, and this being the next big remake that Capcom comes out with post-Village. It's an important topic for RE fans, and we want to know your thoughts and opinions, of course, down below, so you can join the discussion here on YouTube or on the Discord, wherever you want to chat it up. But without further ado, let's hit the music. Here is the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast discussing RE4 Remake. Once again, let's do it.
This is RPD Officer Leon Kennedy, and you're listening to the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast.
What is going on, everyone?
What is going on, my peeps?
This isn't a Village video.
No, it is not. Well, in one sense, we're going back to the Village.
Back to a Village.
To before the Village.
The new Village.
To before Ethan.
Resident Evil 4 Village.
Yes.
Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Resident Evil 4.
It's been almost a year since Resident Evil 3 Remake has been out.
Yes.
And we know that RE4 is in the background being developed, but there is news.
There is some news
of the development being overhauled, stalled, stopped, reconfigured.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot. It's not anything too surprising, basically. So, a lot of people know that Capcom themselves didn't make Resident Evil 3 Remake. They did make Resident Evil 2 Remake, but Resident Evil 3 Remake was basically worked on by a company called M2. And M2 is a company that was also being, at the same time helped by another company called Neobards. And Neobards are the ones responsible for Resistance. So a lot of the backlash for Resident Evil 3 Remake went to M2 because people were thinking that because Capcom wasn't directly involved with everything, that it was mostly Capcom's fault for Resident Evil 3 Remake not necessarily getting a passing star for all Resident Evil fans. I definitely think it gets overly hated on a little bit.
Definitely. We know at this point that they were made side by side, 2 and 3.
Yeah, 2 and 3 for
and
sure.
this remake has apparently been in development since 2018, so they say.
Yeah, so Resident Evil 4
been in development for a while.
Has been in development basically since...
But doesn't matter at this point.
Right after. It doesn't. Because they're moving due to some disagreements with direction, which I'll go over the story in a second. But they're moving development back to the team that did Resident Evil 2 Remake. And the main reason is because there were some discrepancies and disagreements with the direction that Resident Evil 4 Remake was taking, according to some of the articles that have been coming out and floating around the internet. They gave the reason that, M2 wants to create a more faithful remake to Resident Evil 4, the original, because everybody really was hating on Resident Evil 3, and M2 didn't want to be the ones responsible for that decision. Now, M2 was not taking entirely creative liberties when they remade Resident Evil 3 Remake, and it is very true on paper right here, the way that they've described the discrepancy, that Capcom is responsible for the things that were chosen to not make a reappearance in Resident Evil 3 Remake. Now, I said chosen not to make a reappearance because it is not something that was cut from the game, which is a big misconception in this community, that things were developed and then removed, which is cut content. Nothing was cut. Resident Evil 3 Remake and 2 Remake came out almost entirely the way Capcom wanted them to come out. M2 wanted to create a faithful remake of Resident Evil 4, a more one-for-one, like the original remake, and maybe add some stuff to it. And Capcom said no.
And that's the biggest thing, too. It's like, do us and the fans want to see a one-for-one of RE4? Or changing too much is like pissing in the Holy Grail, because it's like one of the most critically acclaimed Resident Evil. So they're playing with
in gaming, it is the most popular machine. It is the most popular in gaming history.
Right.
There's
Hands
no
down.
question.
Yeah.
I don't think
regardless
it's the best.
About how any fans
no
feel. Exactly.
No matter
how we feel, you guys feel.
There's no way you could argue that Resident Evil 4 is not the most prolific.
So they're looking at it with
Evil.
What can sell the most? What's going to sell most to the fans? And they are seeing how RE3 2 and RE3 Remake did. And it really begs the question as to what you would like to see. I mean, the thing is that with it being rebooted and adding something new, I wouldn't mind something like the original Resident Evil Remake, where it had a good balance of both. It didn't remove major sections or anything, but if it did, maybe it's replaced with something else, because maybe they just want this to be the biggest and best remake out of the two.
Yeah.
This may be the best remake that we get out of 2 and 3, because they're going to try to, give it some kind of production overhaul that it needs to make it fulfilling for the fans. Because like I said, it's Resident Evil 4, so they're not playing with a light title here. This is a big title. Something like Resident Evil 4 sold 10.4 million copies. That's nothing to shrug at. So if they're remaking a game that has that much weight, they probably saw what they were looking at and they're like, no, like let's change it. But I mean, the thing is that someone like yourself, like, you have always said RE4 can have some changes made to it.
For sure.
So
the Merchant is a perfect example. You guys will get this video probably sooner than a lot of our Village videos drop. So it's we're not going to get to those portions just quite yet, but we said in the Village videos that the Merchant is returning, and it almost seems like the Merchant is returning in a more refined and confident manner than he was in 4, because the 4's Merchant does have problems.
And the thing is people are always talking about how, this is using assets from Village. It's going to use assets from Village now. Stuff looks similar, stuff like that. we know that they're always going to use assets. I mean, it's
Yeah,
RE Engine, it's
RE
Capcom,
Engine.
they're going to.
The
But
fucking bolt cutters are in all 4 of the RE Engine
Right.
games. They're going to reuse assets.
yeah, they're going to, and
The bolt cutters will be in 4.
but they're going to
They're going to be in 4.
yeah, they're gonna reimagine that whole experience from the village to Salazar's castle to the island. You know, they might even redo all that whole section, stuff like that, where it's like if they did something more one for one, that means everything is still going to be there in the sequence that we remember it as, right? They're not going to really throw any kind of like changes out there.
Which
But the thing is that you have the fans from Resident Evil 3, the changes they made, some people were happy with them, some people weren't happy with them, right? I was more mixed because like I missed the clock tower, I missed the gravedigger, stuff like that, right? Some people didn't care about that cut content. But for this specifically, if you were to take out those sections and people complain again, maybe they were worried that, listen, if we take too much out, like we're going to get shit for it. And maybe that's the way they were developing it up until the point when Capcom stepped in and was like, okay, we got to change this because of the fans' response. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Like directly, because it's not like they don't listen to the fans like they have been.
No, I think it's very clear what happened.
For the most part,
Yeah.
they have been.
I think it's very clear what happened. M2 feels largely responsible, or they feel like M2's the team that made RE3 Remake. They feel like they're taking the blame for Resident Evil 3 because Capcom forced M2 to make changes that M2 didn't really want to. M2 this time stuck their ground and they said, no, I'm tired of all the backlash from 3 Remake for us removing or shuffling things around or whatever they did. I want to do a more one-for-one, and then once we have the one-for-one skeleton, we then want to add and improve upon the foundation that was Resident Evil 4, which definitely can be improved, right? It's aged poorly, in my opinion. It's still a great game.
Right.
It always will be a great game. It'll always be in a lot of people's top 5s,
But there's
even
so
top
much
10s.
they can redefine
But
it
there's
now.
so much they can, like, controls need to be
Movement,
fixed. Movement
like,
needs to be fixed.
yeah.
Enemy AI, traps, more puzzles, more intricate AI, more enemies on screen at once, better sound design. There's so much they can do with 4 now that they didn't have the opportunity to do beforehand. However, Capcom said, no, we don't want you to do one-for-one. We want this to fit into our remake canon timeline or whatever they have planned, because I have a feeling the remakes do not take place alongside the old games. They're their own thing, right? That's what they wanted to do, man.
And they can always lead this into, to your point, doing the first game again.
Yeah.
Because once you got 4, what else do you got to go back and do until you
Yeah.
do 5 and 6? I guarantee you they're going to fit everything into this new
remake canon.
1 through 4 canon.
Yeah. Which they don't even get me
It's
started.
always possible.
Because because this is the thing. M2 is like, we want to create a more consistent and faithful remake to Resident Evil 4.
It's the biggest one.
And Capcom's like, no, we already laid the seeds for Nemesis and the Plagas connection.
Like, carry that over.
You can't cut that. We need the story to do this.
Right.
And M2 said,
you see Jill with the sample at the end of RE3. You see her in her new apartment somewhere.
She doesn't want, or Capcom does not want this game to be one for one. And I'm going to lose a lot of people here, but neither do I. Resident Evil 4
I would agree.
is there.
Right.
Just like the original 2 is there, just like the original 3 is there. That's why me and you enjoyed, even though we have problems with 2 and 3 Remake, we enjoyed them a lot. Because the originals are there. That's why it feels like we're so more hypercritical of 7, and I'm sure of Village once that's out. It's because they're new things. There's nothing that's back that you can compare them to.
Right. But now that you're making these new remakes in this new timeline and setting up all these stories that connect, you have 2 and 3 connect just right off and within a year's time.
Yeah, literally.
And you already have that like
which
foundation
was a bad
down
marketing move because I don't want to say dredges. The uneducated, which is not a shade at anybody. It's not a toss at anybody. But the uneducated or the people who don't understand how things work and how much real time and development goes into these things are going to look at a number, January to April, and see it's a year and go, RE3 was rushed. RE3 was not rushed.
It was when we interviewed Nicole Tompkins, we asked her when her stuff was recorded. It was literally during the RE2 sessions.
Literally. It was not rushed at all.
Because you talked to Nick, who was an actor on
RE2,
and we talked to Nicole, and
they
literally
recorded in the same amount of time.
Right.
Like, they were working on those games together.
It doesn't just mean stuff was taken out or changed or cut, that it was, now if they cut or change stuff from RE4, it's not like it's going to be, like terrible if they add something there that's, like, we're not excusing anything to be, like, removed if it's not one for one. That doesn't mean we're promoting that we would like everything to be changed, like, completely. Like, it doesn't have to be like that.
Resident Evil 3 Remake. Do I care the Gravedigger is gone? No. Do I care that, Nemesis Type 2 is gone? Yeah, I do.
Right, that was
do I care the Clock
too.
Tower is gone? No, I don't. I don't care.
But I do. So
But
it's like we have different opinions.
But do I think if I was doing it, would I have removed them? No. I wouldn't have removed them, because you don't gain anything by removing them. No. If the pacing in the Clock Tower, which is my gripe with it, is the problem, then just fix the fucking pacing and then put the Clock Tower in it. It makes no sense to remove or choose to move forward and cut things from the story, which is grammatically correct, not cut content, but it's cut story. And you want to add story, which they did.
They did.
Why did you even have to remove anything? And this goes for 2 and 3. Why did you have to remove any story points? You could have reworked them or just changed them and then added stuff like you did with the original remake. Even though the original remake ends very poorly because you don't see all 4 of them get on the helicopter, I'm going to, beat a dead horse.
Time,
what I mean? Like, I'm going to beat a dead horse. It's not going to get changed next time. It's fucking, we're talking about these guys, right? Like, it's not going to change next time. But the thing is like, at least make the same mistakes. Don't add new ones. Don't change it to the point where you're going to step on certain fans' toes.
Well, yeah, it's RE4. It's not going to make everyone happy when it's a all said and done product in our hands and we're finally playing it. There's going to be those people who be like, it's not like the original, man, or it's too different. Yeah. It's because when you have those originals hold so much weight in other people's, nostalgia plays a heavy role into it.
It does. It's the same thing with 3. You were more disappointed in 3 than I was. We both really liked it, but I wasn't as disappointed in 3 as you were, because 3 is your favorite game of all time. Our roles literally flip with 2.
Right.
You weren't as disappointed, but I was, because I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
With 4, we're both going to be equally disappointed. It's Dustin's turn. Dustin's going to be the one that's like, what the fuck, man? Because that's his favorite game. And we know we're never getting Code Veronica. So it's one of those things, like, that's his real favorite. But we're never going to get that 4. There are so many people who say Resident Evil 4 and not Resident Evil, right? So, like, there's so many fans and gamers out there who are like, oh, I love Resident Evil 4. I played 5, but I didn't really like 6. Did you play the originals? No. I just played what was available, right? A lot of people always make the argument that, like, the games need to come to new gens. They need to release them. They need to make the trilogy. They need to release them.
Right.
It needs to happen, right? It needs to happen.
Any confusion in regards to, like, what people want, because they're going to be... they're going to have some kind of, like, mindset as far as, like, okay, we're actually going to have, a remake that isn't going to piss people off, isn't going to remove stuff. And, it's just, I don't know. It's just a weird time, because you're really going to divide fans no matter what. So it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But they really, because, like, RE4 for me, like, I always love RE4. Like, I still hold that game up in high regard, but there's so much more they can do with the modern Resident Evil stuff. So it's like,
absolutely,
they got to make it the best remake out of the 2. It's got to be the best, or 3 if you count.
Yeah, you got it out of the 3.
Yeah, so out of the 3, I should say. But
on a scale of 1 to 10, how optimized do you think their listening of the fans is going to reflect in their remake? decisions as Capcom. And by optimize, I mean, like, how much do you think they're going to try to cater to their core fan base and their diehards? People who really care about that game.
I would say probably like 6 out of 10.
Think they're going to try, but come up short a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Because
I feel like the expectation is going to be really high.
I think they're going to pick one group of fans and try to get there. That's what I think.
Okay. So still come up short.
For sure. I think so. I think 6 out of 10 is generous. I think 5 or 6 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a hefty game, you know, it's a big thing to kind of bring up because, you know, you hear stuff like this on the brink of Village and you know that if Village is successful, obviously they're going to just keep, you know, bringing it out, and whether or not, you know, this delays the development, which it might, you know, you'll just get a better remake for it, hopefully. You know, you just hope that when situations like this happen, you just have to hope that the delays and everything else is like, you know, really, it really just makes up for it, and they do its justice. You know what I mean? I like to see RE4 in a really good light, and hopefully it does, you know, work its way into 3. Because if it follows up 3 and it bakes itself into that story, that would make me even happier, because I would like to see some kind of continuation, even though I know this is Leon's story and it's not Jill's story or Claire's story, but we get to see what they're doing in this, you know, remake timeline, and, you know, fingers are crossed, man. I mean, we try to stay positive here at LTRE, so we would like to obviously, you know, try to stay positive for the RE4 at least. Reverse, not so much, but RE4...
Reverse will have a whole video coming out on.
RE4 is going to be, you know, very cool to at least start seeing in the next couple of years. Obviously, we're still a couple years away, but
yeah,
you know,
we definitely been calling 2023 since like the beginning.
Yeah, as far as like time,
I wouldn't even
how long it's going to take between main title and the
I wouldn't even
remake.
be surprised if you don't see it till 2024.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a while.
2-3 years. And you know, but yeah,
unless they really decide to not take care of it.
Yeah, and they're just
then
like,
you might, if you see it in 2022, if we get a teaser for RE4 Remake this year, be scared. That's all I'm gonna say. If we see it this year, you should be worried.
Yeah.
That's how I'll end my opinion on this. But I'm very excited for Village, and I'm very excited for the potential. At least we know that Resident Evil 2 Remake was received like better as far as
it sold like 7 million copies and stuff like that
to the general fan base.
Yeah, and it
than
sold
3
well.
was.
Right.
So if the team that made 2 is making 4, hopefully we'll see some competency.
Yeah.
I think it'll be.
I have confidence it'll be good.
I think it's going to be just like Remake 2 and 3. I think it's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be phenomenal. I don't think it's going to be what everybody wants it to be. But I think it'll be the best of the 3. Of 2, 3, and 4.
I think so too.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think they know that.
I think they should set that bar.
They
should. They should really set that bar, because they make all of us fans happy. So
for sure. And we want to know what you guys think.
Yeah,
so
let us know what you think down below.
Let us know in the comments.
Or if you're listening to this and you want to comment or come on the Discord, whatever the case may be, hit that thumbs up, hit the like button,
and
subscribe.
Don't forget to subscribe. Because Anthony, what percentage of people actually watch our videos that aren't subscribed?
Like 47?
47%. Why are you watching our videos and you're not subscribed?
Yeah, you got to follow us. We're
I
covering
know
all Resident Evil news.
We know that you're watching multiple videos.
Yeah.
And if you're going to come back and watch us all the time, then
especially if you're commenting.
Just download. Yeah.
If you're in the community, join the discussion. Join the Discord. We also offer a Patreon as well if you want to support us a little bit more, get some extra content. And obviously, you know, you can always download this podcast or videos and stuff like that, or audio forms that we do on Spotify, iTunes, Libsyn, or Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can download podcasts. I actually have it up on Amazon Music now, because Amazon Music newly updated podcast section is up now. So we are on Amazon Music.
We are on Amazon.
So
let's go.
Anywhere you can listen to the podcast. But that's it for this edition. We got Jesse all here and everything.
Jesse's here.
And we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Bye-bye. This video was brought to you by our supporters over on Patreon, where users like Jack Fleming make it possible to keep on delivering awesome content. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.